Hey famous warrior, welcome back to our channel. This is our space to get encouraged, charged up, inspired to face the fights of life. And if you're new to this channel, I just want to encourage you to subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any of the new videos that we put up, because all the content that we have on this channel is specifically just for you. Today, I have an amazing treat, not just for you guys, but honestly, it's a treat for myself, because our guest is a friend, a big sister, a cousin, like all the things. She's all the things packaged in one amazing person that I thank God I get the opportunity to call my friend. Her name is Lucy, and we were actually doing the math of when we met, because in my mind she's just always been there. We were actually doing the math of when we met before getting behind the camera, and I met Lucy when I was 11 years old, which is crazy to me. Like, that's insane. And she's here today, and I hope that you'll come onto the channel in future to talk about other stuff, because there's a plethora of things that we can unpack for our audience that will actually benefit our audience. But today she's actually here to talk about something really a little heavy, but I hope that it will encourage people out there. Our topic for today is finding love after loss. And Lucy was dating my late cousin, who you won't believe this is not something that I planned, but actually has been late today, to the day that we're filming this, 16 years today, which is insane. It feels like a lifetime ago, but it also feels like it was just yesterday in a weird way. And she's gonna be here sharing her story, sharing some things that she learned through that experience, and how she navigated that loss, and what led her to then her now husband, because she's married, she's got kids, 3 beautiful girls that she's going to talk a bit about by herself. But yeah, we hope this video encourages you guys. We hope that it inspires you. We hope that it can help answer some questions if you're out there dealing with something similar. So without further ado, Lucy, thank you for being here. Thank you not only for making the time, but for also being open to sharing your vulnerability with me, with the audience, because I always say vulnerability is our superpower, but unfortunately not a lot of people want to take that step to be open about things that they've dealt with or things that they're even struggling with today. So I really appreciate you being here. I don't take it lightly. And I want to give a special shout out to Kasaya, your husband, your hubby. Thank you for letting Lucy be here, but also thank you for letting her come to talk about this particular story. So without dragging this out for too long, before we get into the heart of the topic, in true famous warrior fashion, we want you to begin by telling us a bit about yourself in 5 sentences. So just to give us a little idea of who you are as a person, what you're into, just so that as the viewers listen to your story, they can feel like they know you.
First of all, thank you for having me. It's deeply touching that after all these years, you still find time to catch up with me, and that I'm still somebody that you consider.
Yeah.
So it's a massive honor to be here. I'm very proud of everything you're doing, everything your channel represents. And most of all, I'm happy that you're out of your shell, because anyone who knows Wheezy,
I know, right?
Yeah. So this is beautiful, and I'm all for this.
Thank you.
In 5 sentences,
Yes.
I'm a lover of God. I love God. the more I get to unfold and understand his ways, I just fall in love with him.
Yeah.
I love everything. Yeah, I'm a mother. I'm a wife. I love where I'm at, where I'm getting to. I know who I am more. Yeah. I'm a first year REMA student. Just completed my first year.
Yes.
And I'm currently running a family business. It'll be a year in January. So it's very exciting. It's a very exciting season, but also very scary.
Yeah.
Yes. And embracing my womanhood. So,
Awesome. Awesome. So, to kind of lay the foundation, tell us a bit about you and Arthur's love story. How did you meet? How did you guys get together? Things like that.
Okay, so we basically grew up together.
Yes.
We were such kids.
Yeah.
My mom, I would say my mom and his mom really connected through other family relationships. So they met, I think, one time at a party or something, and then his mom kept on saying, "Oh, you know, you guys should be friends with my son. You should be friends with my son." I was like, "Oh, okay, who's her son?" And we ended up linking up, and we were really good friends as kids in primary, maybe high school. And of course, I was in boarding school majority of my secondary, all secondary from grade 8 to 12. So we sort of lost touch. Things happened and all that stuff. And then I think I was in my first year, and we bumped into each other again.
That's first year at uni.
At the University of Zambia. And just chatting and catching up as friends. And then, it was like, okay, we could maybe date or something. And so it was very friendly, and he was such a gentleman, even at a young age. My mom recalls a story where I was getting my hair braided at home, and he drove all the way, and he's like, "Where's Lucy?" And she's like, "Oh, she's braiding her hair, but maybe she'll come, I don't know." And he's like, "I'm going to sit with her." Oh. And so he came, he sat with me till I finished braiding my hair.
Which is
hours.
Yeah.
And then he waited for me to wash dishes, and he was just telling me stories. And then we went to join his mom and my mom. And from there I think things just kicked off.
Awesome. How old, to put it in context, how old were you guys when you got together? How long did you date before he passed, and where were you in the stage of your relationship at the time of his passing?
So there's a huge chunk of us that I think because of the trauma has been blocked, and my husband will tell you I'm not the person you go to for when is whose birthday and and when's our anniversary. He does all that stuff. I'm terrible. But I remember that I was quite young, I think late teen entering into my 20s. And at that time I wasn't saved, so to speak. I didn't know God at such a deep level yet, although I did respect and acknowledge his presence in my life. And so like our relationship was very friendly. We didn't date for so long, but we were friends for a very long time. So it was that phase of getting to know each other, falling in love, and very, very early stages of a relationship.
So I know you just mentioned that some of the memories were kind of blocked off because it was just such a shocking experience and a traumatic one at that. But if you are you able to share with the audience how you made it through the first few days after finding out that Arthur has passed away, and what did that look like? How did each day after his passing, leading to his funeral, and maybe even a few days after his funeral, how did you navigate and survive those first few days?
So I remember the night before there was a wedding.
Yeah.
And I was meant to attend, but I think I got caught up with like a school program and then having to do my hair, and I didn't like how my hair turned out, so he was laughing at me because I called him. I'm like, I don't think I'll come to the wedding, I hate my hair. So he's like, okay, we'll see, don't worry, there's a bride at home after the wedding, so we'll see you then. So I was like, okay, at least I can rest. And I was very secure, I was secure that he can chill. He wasn't one of those people you question to say what he up
is he
to
doing at this wedding.
Which is very sad nowadays. But back to everything. So I remember falling asleep, and usually I would say a little prayer before I sleep, and that night I didn't because I was so tired. And I fell asleep, and the morning, my aunt always visits early in the morning, but this particular morning, it was so early. Her time is usually 6, and this time it was like 5:30, 4 o'clock, somewhere there. So I'm like, oh, hey, Auntie Rosie, do you want some tea? And she was so sad, and I'm like, what's wrong? And I could hear Mom and Dad walking in the corridors. I'm like, what are these people doing? So she was just quiet. I'm like, do you want some tea? Are you okay? And she was like, Lucy, I'm sorry, but Arthur's gone. And I'm like, gone where? Because I spoke to him close to midnight, and he was like, hey, I'm on my way home. I love you and stuff. And I'm like, see you later. And so it was such a shock. And we had our nanny, Lillian, who we're still friends today, and she just held on to me because I think I lost. My knees were weak, and I was confused. And I don't know what happened after that. And then I remember having to go to the house, seeing his mom, his baby sister, and you guys, and
it was all real then.
And I remember I couldn't eat much and stuff because in my mind I'm like, what's he eating? I don't know. It's very strange.
What got you through those next few days?
I think it was how welcoming his family was, how amazing their love. It was so poured out on me, and it was overwhelming. You had your mom, your aunties, you guys, Larissa, his mom. So that the love and support there. And then I remember a conversation with my dad, I think either the night before the burial, where I was just a mess, and he was like, when somebody's expecting a baby and the baby comes, all the organs in the body are like, they're so used to having this baby here, and so they're just like ways, there's so much trauma. When the baby comes into the world, everyone's happy. And that's what death is like. First it's uncomfortable and all the organs move and it's like, what's happening? And then we all get used, and then the baby has to come out, and then to bring joy to another side of the world. So he helped put things into perspective in that. It's a very strange story. But it made sense, because now it was him going to heaven. We got used to him here on earth, and now in heaven
they're happy,
and we're sad because we were so used to having him.
to just give you guys context, so we were at a cousin's wedding. The whole family was there, and it was in Jesmondine. And Arthur was living in Chilanga at the time. And on his drive home from the wedding, he unfortunately fell asleep at the wheel, and the vehicle that he was driving went into the lane of oncoming traffic, and he was hit by a truck. Yeah. And it was a very devastating accident because it was right there. Like, there was no rush to the hospital, there was nothing like that. That was it. And we were from celebrating, all happy for Namunza and Mikey, and all just beginning to now receive this news. And I think people were still, either still partying into the wee hours, or, trying to get some sleep before the next morning's work. And unfortunately, these were just all the news that we were getting. I remember we were still living in town because we hadn't yet moved to our house in Chilanga at the time. And Granny Fatima and Granny Fiza, I think, if I remember correctly, I know for sure Granny Fatima, they came to our house. So no one phoned Mom. I don't know if they tried to phone her, I don't know, but I just remember they actually came to our house and they were just all crying. And again, just like you, in my bedroom wondering what's going on, why are people crying out there? And it was just, Arthur's gone. And that, like you're saying, the worst day of your life kind of thing, because you're wondering, like, what does that mean? I'd never interacted with death until that point. So it's like, what does that really mean? Like, you know what death means? Mm-hmm. But then when you're in that situation, you're like, so Arthur is like, just like that, like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he was 19 at the time. Okay, so yeah. Such a young man with his whole life ahead of him. You guys had just started this relationship that the whole family was behind, As you speak about the love that you got to experience during this really tumultuous time, I'm also reflecting back, and I think to this day, other than the loss of my father-in-law and Uncle Ahmed, Arthur's loss is still one of the most significant losses for me. Yeah. Because he was like, I'm the eldest, but Arthur was like the big brother that I never had, really, because he was very responsible and very wise beyond his years. And even though we didn't relate as buddies, because he just always felt like he's older. So to me, it felt like we couldn't really be friends on that level, because he was like older. He would pick us up from school. He would take us to extra lessons. Whenever we needed to go to the mall on the weekend, it's him who drove us. Like, he was just this older cousin, even though he wasn't that much older. Yeah. And so when he passed, it was a shock to my system, because I had never experienced loss like that. Like, that was the first. Yeah, we had people in our family that had passed, but they were older. Yeah, they were older. So that was like, wait, what just happened? And I was at that wedding. We were dancing, me and Maud were dancing with Arthur at that wedding. So it's like, how is this person, like, we were just with him a few hours ago, how is he not here anymore? What does that even mean? And back to what you were talking about regarding, the love that you received. I reflect back on that time, and one of the things that I am grateful for is that Auntie Mary, his mom, her grief was very open. It almost felt like she wanted us to experience it with her. And I don't know if this was purposeful. Auntie Mary, if you ever watch this video, I just want to nod my head to you in appreciation, because it didn't feel like we had to hide how we were feeling, or that she only cried behind closed doors because we were so young and she didn't want to traumatize us. Because I think if she had done that, that is what would have traumatized us. Because then we wouldn't have known how to navigate, how do we act around her. You know, it would have been weird. But she let us sit in that grief with her. I remember even, you know, a month anniversary from the day he passed, we were all together. We went and bought flowers. We visited his grave. It was like, we are walking through this together. I'm not going to grieve the loss of my son by myself because you guys are too young. She kind of held our hands and walked through the valley, so to say, with us. And we would have conversations. I remember the following year when it was his birthday, the first birthday, him not being around, again, we were all together. It just became normal. Like, we are grieving and we're gonna do this together. So I kind of, as you are speaking, those things are coming to my mind. And you're right, it was not like, oh, Lucy's over there and we're over here. It was like, we're in this together.
Yeah.
So when we think about, you know, when we think back on how young you guys were and how much life you still had ahead of you, and how with Arthur, unfortunately, that was cut short, but you were still here and you still had a lot of life ahead of you. And part of living life is, you know, dating again and finding a spouse, which you did. But how long before, like how long after Arthur's passing, were you in a space where you even felt like you were ready to entertain, you know, guys, you know, wanting to take you out on a date, or even just the thought of being with another person? If you remember, like, how long was it?
First of all, I really never imagined my life without him because we had so many plans. One of which was maybe going to school and figuring that out, because our family backgrounds are so similar yet so different. Like my mom is really like cultured, and so is my dad, and quite modest as well. So, but he was the only person they really trusted. And if it was going out or anything, Arthur has to be there, you know? And I was also really young and figuring myself out. It's only now that you think, you know, would we have even lasted? Because we were both so young. So many things, so much growth and development had to have happened, you know what I mean, when you look at it from this perspective. But I really never imagined my life without him, and for a while I wondered why I was still alive and why I didn't go, why, you know, so many questions. But in terms of how long, I wouldn't say that I was in a series of healthy relationships, because I think at that point I was in an unhealthy space, mentally, emotionally. I was raw. Every person you'd meet who would show interest, you'd still need to explain that, you know, I don't know, you know, because he set the bar so high.
You know, I know when we lose people, we tend to put them like on this pedestal, for lack of a better word. But Arthur, even before his death, he was just that. Like, he was responsible, he was loyal, he was all the things. Like, if you have this checklist of the perfect guy, he was that. And then he passes, so you kind of canonize that perfect picture. So like how was it kind of putting up these guys against that, you know?
Definitely unhealthy and unfair to them. I do know I had quite a strong support system. My girls, Simu and Kui and Priscilla, Chilo, they were so good with me, but also wanting me to really try and come out, because I was very dark. It was a very, very dark time for me. I was drinking because I needed to be numb, and
Yeah.
it was very unhealthy. I had vodka under my bed, and I'll just take a sip and sleep, not go out and party. And I had a lot of zone off moments where I would be with people and hanging out, but my mind is just gone.
Yeah.
I still do that now, but not because of it. It's just who I am.
Kind of just zone out.
Yeah, just zone out. Like if I'm, so to say it took time for me to get into a serious relationship. Yeah, it did, but there were people who were in my life that it was very unhealthy,
Right.
because I wasn't in the right mind space. It was trauma-based, Like, I don't care about me anymore. Yeah. I do remember still going to church. Yeah. Funny enough, Pastor Walker officiated the ceremony. And I remember Auntie Mary and Uncle Elias are members as well, and they received some counseling. So Pastor Walker would tell them to bring me along for counseling. And I was like, it's probably one of those funny church programs and whatnot. And I was still very young and dumb. I didn't value what that invitation was, because if I did go, I feel like I would have received the healing I needed to not engage in unhealthy relationships or friendships with people. And Miracle Life has a very special place in my heart, because this is what got me there, I guess. I still used to go, but not for the counseling. Because I was like, what's counseling? I remember I didn't know if he knew me, Pastor Walker, or anything, so it was weird. Like, why would I go for counseling to people? I don't know these people and stuff. So, and as a a post-teen, early 20s person, you're very
conscious.
And not open to discussing things. Yeah.
Okay. When you did start dating in a healthy way, what were some ways that having dated Arthur affected your dating? How you mentioned, comparing, so when you were in a healthy space, was that still there? How did you navigate it? Did people that you were, trying to see if you could, have a relationship with, intimidated, by this person that you were once with? Or how did you navigate that space?
So we need to realize that this death defined me at some point. So I became the girl whose boyfriend died. So a lot of the people that I let in to my heart or my space were already cognizant of the fact that I had this very big personality in my life, and he was gone. So letting people in to know me outside of that was quite challenging. There were different kinds of people, and at some point you do still compare, but then realize that that's not healthy. And because of how receptive they were to this, and okay, this did happen, but you're here now, and what do you want, or who are you? So I'm very grateful that at least there were a few people who were very kind and graceful to me.
Okay. So now fast forward to Kasaya. Yes. When you guys met, obviously I don't really know the background. I don't know whether, I know he's friends with Louise, but I'm not sure if he was friends with Arthur when Arthur was still alive. So how did you guys navigate that space? leading up to this point and him even giving his blessing for you to be here to have this conversation with me, how did you navigate that?
So I knew Kasaya from 6th grade. So
Wow.
yeah, we were all Rhodes Park kids. But I was only there for a year or something like that. I knew of him, and I think there was a hint that he liked me. And this is way before I even met Arthur. So it's like very complicated.
Yeah.
So I knew this guy in grade 6 who liked me, and then I left after grade 7 and never saw him or heard from him until university at Yunza, because I've gone to like 3 universities. And so I met him at university one time, but in a capacity of, oh hey, at the club, what's up? Give me your email address, which I found really weird. No one asks for an email address. So, okay, weirdo. Yeah, I'd always be buying ice cream and he would be printing stuff because it's very academic. I was very chilled because I'm like, I'm just living my life, man. Leave me alone. So that was us. And then he left for Namibia and I was here at AIBT now. And then AIBT didn't work out. So I ended up in Namibia. And he had just completed his 4th year and he was coming for graduation. And I think I was in very what can I say, in a space between not dating and not being open as well to relationships. I was like, God, I'm done. I remember sitting in the car Namibia has taxis where it's a taxi, but it's not yours personally. You have to be like different. So I'm sitting in the front seat, and that's the best seat you can get.
Okay.
So I'm looking down and zoned off as usual, saying my prayer to God, and I was like, Lord, the next guy I let into my life is my husband. I'm not doing these funny relationships. And then, because I'm looking down, I see this person standing by the door, trying to get into the front seat, and I'm like, bruh. What the heck? And I look up and it's a familiar face. I'm like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
And then he's like, graduation, duh. I'm like, duh. Like, why would you say anyway? Oh, congratulations, cool. And he's like, yeah, it's going to be fun. You should come and stuff. So I just brushed it aside. I'm like, what's this? Okay, cool. Graduate. Because remember, I've told God, I'm done.
Yeah.
So I'm not fascinated by people anymore. So fast forward that evening, we went out and whatever. And this is the first time. If you are familiar, which I know you're not, Wheezy, because you took my advice.
Yes, I did.
Do you remember?
I did.
I advised your wife.
Can you tell the audience?
No, she must tell the audience.
Hey, there was so many different nuggets of advice, so I can't even pick on one.
The dating one.
Yeah, there was a lot of dating advice.
Oh,
just one piece of dating
because you are now my
advice.
young sister. I had to take over.
Yes. Yeah, no, we'll unpack that advice probably in another episode.
Yeah.
See, you advised her the right way and she ended
up with a great guy. No, seriously.
Yeah.
So, as you know, the worldly relationships. You're either expecting some guy to say, oh, let's hang out more or whatever at the end of the evening or a hug or a kiss. And this guy escorts me to my cab and kisses my forehead. And I'm like, that's weird. But okay, thank you. Because, I'm not about first kisses anyhow. I was like, so he kissed my forehead and I had a lot of respect for that and wondered. It really piqued interest in me. Like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
So did he know of Arthur?
By the way, I forgot that I'm supposed to be answering. So the dynamics. He was friends with Louise Kunda, but also knew Arthur and was most probably at the funeral because I don't remember.
Yeah, I also don't remember seeing.
I didn't know him like that. Yeah. So he did know him from a distance. I don't know if they were friends, but yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So when you guys had reached that point where now it was serious, were there conversations that you had to have about Arthur? Did you guys feel the need to address it, or was it just, oh, this is in the past? And how did you kind of walk through that phase?
So one amazing thing about him is he took me as I was. He embraced me as I was, as things unfolded, because we obviously didn't know where things were going. He was in Lusaka now, and I was doing Namibia. So we talked, had conversations around this is how it was, and obviously that's when we discovered they knew each other and all those things. And he said something, I think a day before our wedding, and he was like, I know I'm not him. Yeah, he said, I know I'm not him, and I know how much he cared about you, and I'll try my best. Yeah, and I reassured him and said, we're on this journey together. I love you, and you're that light. I never thought I would ever be somebody's wife.
Yeah. You mentioned the counseling, Pastor Walker's invitation to the counseling, which you did not want. Okay. And how, if you had gone, in hindsight, you feel that it would have helped you and all that stuff. So, because you didn't go, was there any event, like maybe an all-time low moment, or a person or a situation that led you to feel like, okay, I have trauma and I need to deal with this trauma? And were you purposeful about dealing with that trauma, or did you just deal with it as time went on? And they say, as time passes, you get healed somehow. How did you navigate dealing with that trauma?
I think for a season, it helped meeting with Auntie Mary.
Yeah.
It really helped, because sometimes we just hold each other and cry.
Yeah.
Or sometimes we just have a drink together and chat and laugh, and I'd walk away feeling so good. And then I started to pursue, after that season, my spirituality, and going to church helped. The messages helped. Conversations helped. Friendships helped. I was not so intentional about getting help because I didn't know if I had a problem.
Yeah.
And then in Namibia, I remember at church, there were certain things that you needed to address. And there was a self-worth thing, because now I'm defined by I'm that girl. So I would say, honestly, God did his thing, because I would get broken down in church, and it's like, why am I even crying? Or you're in a club, it's supposed to be chilling, but you're crying. And that's why I think because when I used to drink, it wasn't drink and go crazy, but drink and just cry and sleep. That's what I used to do. Yeah. So, was it healthy therapy? No.
Definitely not.
Yeah. Just drink and sleep. I was not addicted to alcohol, but it was definitely an unhealthy vice.
It was a coping mechanism.
It was a coping mechanism for me at some point. And then I was in control of the drinking, and then just switch that off. Yeah.
How did it stop?
The drinking.
Remember the point where she's like,
I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, I think I just realized I don't want to become an addicted person to alcohol, and I was like, I don't even like drinking. It gives me a certain feeling, but like, why do I really do it? And so slowly I used to like, if I don't need to drink, I won't. And I would enjoy nice wine and stuff like that. It was expensive.
Yeah.
So my trick was, if I can't afford it, I won't do it. And I put myself on a very expensive taste list.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah. Yeah.
So, to anybody watching out there that's listening to this, and maybe they're right in the middle of some of the things that you're talking about, and being where you are now, in hindsight, to the younger Lucy that was given the opportunity to get counseling but rejected it because she didn't know any better, what would you say to somebody out there that thinks, I don't need counseling, I don't want to talk about it, I'll deal with it in other ways, or it will just go away? Time heals all wounds, so at some point I'll wake up and this pain won't be there. What would you say to somebody? What advice would you give to somebody that's in that space?
What comes to mind is to just advise and say, be open, allow yourself, obviously in a very safe space, analyze people, because I think there's a scripture that says you'll know them by their fruits. So analyze people and see who is safe enough to speak to, because life was never meant to be gone through alone. Be open to what the Holy Spirit tells you. Don't isolate yourself and bury yourself. See who you can go and just attach yourself to that person and just speak as much as you can about what you're going through, because you're not alone. A lot of people have stuff. I think also for people who are entrusted with individuals like this, I would say really seek the guidance of the Holy Spirit so that you don't take advantage of the person, and be there for them genuinely.
Awesome. That was actually going to be my next question, is what advice, or in hindsight, what are some things that people around you did right and some things that some people may have done wrong? You mentioned your girlfriends, you mentioned your parents, you mentioned, Arthur's parents and us who are around. But I can say, looking back, I wasn't purposeful about supporting you. I was a kid. Like, I was just, we're here. We're just here to hang out, whatever. If we cry, we comfort each other. But it wasn't like I was like, oh, Lucy has lost this person dear to her, let me be there for her in this way. I was too young and stupid to think like that, So if you're to look back and you want to speak to somebody who is close to a person who is going through this kind of loss, maybe they've lost a spouse, or they've lost a fiance, or they've lost, a boyfriend who they thought, this is my person, I finally found my person, I don't have to look anymore, and this person is tragically taken away, or they fall sick and they pass away. What are some things that key people did right, and maybe a few that did wrong?
I think my parents really handled everything so gracefully. My brother, my family, they just were so, they were a bit nervous and everything, but they were still so brave to listen to me and just understand when I'm having a bad day. Because sometimes you just want to cry. So they were very, very good. Some other people, you'd maybe post something on Facebook and they would say, oh, I think she's going through something, and not necessarily reach out to me personally and say, how are you doing? I know you mentioned you were too young, but in your own way, you, Usha, your mom, you were so there. You were so present. Every time we'd meet in town, it wouldn't be an awkward thing.
Yeah.
It would be a hug and how are you and stuff, and that was so beautiful. I love that. I felt like I'm still part of the family and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I wish people didn't judge me, because I think even just talking to different people, like if I'm talking to a guy or something, and already in my mind I'm like, is it too soon to talk to a guy, you know, and is it okay to have have feelings for someone or engage in a conversation? So you already have that in you, unfortunately. But then when people now start acting strange about it, it's like, whoa, okay, is there a handbook for this kind of stuff? And but definitely there were people who did things really right, and I appreciate them.
Okay, so as we kind of wind down this conversation, you've shared so many things. Thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you for being so open. I really, really hope that people out there that are watching not only watch this video and get, you know, the gems that are in it, but also share it with somebody who they know might benefit from watching this video. But as a final thing, to kind of just end this, I want you to speak directly to somebody who is in the space that you were 16 years ago. Okay. And they're in the middle of this grief, the loss, the guilt, all the feelings and all the things, the low self-esteem, the wondering, why am I alive and this person has gone? They're dealing with all of that stuff right now. What final thoughts would you have to share with them to help them overcome and know that there's light at the end of the tunnel, that their life still has value, that there are people around them that love them, that God still has a plan for them? Yeah.
I think your question answers itself. So wise.
Oh.
But I think I would say your feelings are valid. What you're going through, you're going through. Don't stay there. Keep going. There's a reason you're still alive, and you know, people do die, and that means, you know, you had the rare opportunity to have you were the last chapter in that person's book, and they were a chapter in yours, a special chapter. Acknowledge your feelings, embrace your feelings, embrace the moment, be present, because one day you'll be able to help someone out, and that's what we're here for, is to help each other up. Depend on God, make Him the center of everything, and just have love. Know that you're loved.
Thank you again, Lucy, for not just accepting my invitation, but for just being there. You know, back to all the advice, all the nuggets. But being the big sister. Yes, we may not be in each other's space like every day, all the time, and life happens, momming and wifing and all the things, but I just want to say publicly that I love you, that I appreciate you. I'm so proud of you and how you've just handled this whole thing. I don't think I would have done it as gracefully. And yeah, I am excited about the next chapters of your life and what God is doing in you, Arema, and what He's going to do through you in the next steps. All right, famous warriors, I know this has been, like I said, it was going to be a heavy episode. I don't think there was any avoiding of that. But I really, really hope that this helps you, that this encourages you, inspires you to keep fighting. You're alive, so every single day that we get to be alive is an opportunity to fight. And you guys need to remember that you're worth the fight. Our chance to fight is a privilege, and you guys are definitely worth that fight. it. So keep fighting, keep putting one foot in front of the other, and you will see the goodness of God in the land of the living.